Okay, we're back with part 3 with the image search tutorial. Where we left off was we just changed it so that way we could add clicks, so we could find the image and click on it. And not just click on the image, but also click at the center of the image. Now that we have that, what we're going to do is we're actually going to make it so that way this works in a loop. So that we can keep clicking on this. Wherever it goes, it's not going to get away from us. We're going to find it and we're going to click it again and again. So if you're using a game where you're trying to look for a little soldier running around or whatever, you know, it'll go to them, click, 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 right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of this code up here and we're going to put this inside of a loop. Now, if you remember before, we had created a hotkey called stop, or number pad 1, that altered a variable and gave it a value of 1. What we're going to do now is in our find, when we press our find image thing, immediately as soon as it comes in here, we're going to take that stop variable and we're going to give it a value of 0 to begin with. So as soon as we start this, it's going to set stop to 0, and then later on, if we press number pad 1, it'll give stop a value of 1. Stop is 0, stop is 1. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to say while stop still equals 0, because we're just setting stop to 0 here, so we're going to say while that still equals 0, we can loop over and over and over again. So we come in here, we set stop to 0, and then as long as stop is still 0, it's going to loop over and over and over again. When we want it to stop, we hit number pad 1. That changes the value of stop to 1, which means stop is no longer 0. Okay, so this is actually everything that we need for a loop. Now there's a bunch of different things that we'd want to fix in this, like perhaps we don't want to just infinitely click. Perhaps we want to only click a certain amount of times. Perhaps if we get any of the other error levels, we want it to do something else. Perhaps there's a whole, like I said, we're not focusing on what you're going to do with it. We're just focusing mainly on how to do this. So let's go ahead and run this script again with our new loop built into it. I'm going to load the image, and then if I hit find image, it's going to come into the loop and it should start chasing this around the screen. So there we go. Every time it moves, it's going to find it. Alright, if I want it to stop, I just hit number pad 1 and boom, it stops. Okay, so that's putting it into a loop. Now that brings us to one of the problems with this kind of thing, which comes into how you program the logic around it. Now I'm not going to go specifically into that in this tutorial because I'm going to be covering it in the pixel search topic. So when I get around, I haven't recorded it yet, but perhaps if you're watching this a month from now, 2 months from now, perhaps it is already done. But in the pixel search tutorial number 4, there's going to be a topic where we look at how to do search patterns, and I'll cover in a couple of seconds why that's important by using a new demonstration. So let's say that our script isn't a gaming script and we only want it to check once, and if we have an error level, instead of it just sitting here, so let's I think everything's set up from the way it was before. So if I hit find image, that image doesn't exist on the screen. So what's going to happen is its error level is going to be 1, and we should get that tooltip repeatedly going over and over again. So image not found, image not found, image not found, image not found, right? We don't want that, so what we're going to do, I'm going to hit number pad 1 to stop it. What we're going to do is, just for this example, I'm going to get rid of it afterwards, but if it doesn't find the image on the screen, what we're going to do is we're just going to exit out of this. We're going to exit out of this loop. Now perhaps our find image, we're in some larger, perhaps it's not just as small of a subroutine as this, perhaps it's a really large subroutine, and perhaps we don't want to actually jump out of this subroutine, so instead of putting the return here, what we could do in that case is just change stop to any other value besides 0, right? And that way, if we had more code down here, it would jump to that and continue on. But in our case, our subroutine is just basically this stuff here, so us putting in a return isn't. Either way, in our case, either way it doesn't matter. Either way it doesn't matter. Perhaps if you get an error level of 2, you might want to break out of the subroutine you're in. But if you get an error level of 1, perhaps you just want to jump out of this loop. Right, so if it's an error level of 2, it jumps out of this subroutine. Maybe instead of return, maybe you have an exit app, or maybe you have something else, right? But if we get an error level of 1, perhaps we'll just leave this image search and we'll go to do something else. And then perhaps later on, it'll actually have something in it that says, hey, go back up to this image search and perform it again. Okay, so anyways, we're going to get rid of that because we actually do need this in here. And I'm going to comment the click out for a second, and we're going to use a different test environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a new image. I'm going to go to my home page because it's got some images on it, and I'm just going to, let's say this one right here. All right, I'm going to load. I'm going to hit reload, and that should load that image. So here we go, we have that image. I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to come over to this page where that image doesn't exist, and I'm going to say find image. And it's looking for that image. Now I'm going to go to that page, and it should find that image. And it found it. Right? And actually I can't move my cursor away because it keeps going back there. Okay, so that's just a stupid example, but maybe that'll clear some things up with you. I forgot to start my stopwatch again. Damn it. Let's move to the last section of this, where we're going to create a fake environment. Now I'm going to do a little bit more of this in the pixel search, where we're going to actually have like a whole bunch of different things that move around and blah blah blah. But for this is an environment that we're going to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up the image that we currently have. So this example PNG, I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to take a copy of it. What the fuck? Oh, apparently I clicked on the video. I gave myself a heart attack there. Am I still recording? I gave myself a heart attack because I suddenly had myself talking in my ear. Apparently when I was on that other page, apparently I clicked on that video. Oh, I gave myself a heart attack. Okay, so I'm gonna take that image, I'm gonna make a copy of it. And I'm gonna create a new image. And I'm gonna make this, big. I'm going to give myself a big canvas. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, now I've had this problem happen twice before, so I'm going to make sure I do it right this time. I'm going to set this to 100%. Okay, and now I'm going to paste that, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to paste that image into the new layer. And then I'm going to create a couple of duplicates of it. So this might be, whatever game you're playing or whatever. There might be multiple things of the same type, like oh, I don't know. I don't play too many games. And you know what? I'll just duplicate a couple of those. And I'll move this out of the way. Okay, there we go. We have a environment with lots of duplicates. So these are little soldier dudes or whatever. And I'm going to duplicate this so I can, if I need to, I can run it a couple of times. So this is one of the issues that you're going to have, where you're not just looking for one thing. Perhaps you are looking. Okay, so let me paint a scenario for you. Say I'm a little guy down here. I'm a little guy down here, and these are missiles. This is, what is that game called? Missile Defense, or I forget the name of it. It came out in like late 70s, early 80s, you know, and it's got these little lines for missiles that would come down, and I got to shoot and try to intercept them, right? Perhaps I don't want to wait for my missile to hit. Perhaps I want to move on to the next target before this one actually impacts that. I don't want to just sit there constantly waiting for this guy to get down there, right? So that's one of the problems with this. Because what's going to happen, so let me load this, make sure I have it. So what's going to happen now, I think we're on, I just got to check on where we're at. We have click, so I'm going to get rid of the click. I'm going to change it to mouse move for now. We're going to go to click in a minute, but for now I just want mouse move. So I'm going to load that image in, destroy it. If I go to find image, because it's going to be starting at the top of the screen and working to, the top left, and then working to the right, and then going down a line, working across, down a line, working across, until it finds an image. The first image it finds using that kind of search pattern is going to be the image that gets stuck. So unless that image somehow changes, and if I want to look for multiple images or switch between them, it's not going to happen on its own. So this is the first image that it found, and now it's just going to stay there forever. But if it's a kind of game where maybe if I destroy that, damage it, change it in some way, then it will move on to the next one. So let me do something that'll actually change that image. So I'm going to use a paintbrush, and just a couple of pixels. So now I'm going to switch the script back to being click. Run it again. I'm going to load that image just so it's in it. And now when it finds the image, it's going to click on it, and because we have a way of actually altering it, perhaps it gets blown up or whatever, then it's going to go on to the next image because it's going to be altered. It's not going to look exactly the same. But like I said, with the missile defense kind of deal, if I don't want it to wait for it to actually alter that image, there's other things that I have to do. Other ways that I have to program this to do that. And that's what I'm going to be dealing with in the pixel search topic number 4, or episode number 4. Because it's overlaps this very much, so that's the one I'm going to be using for it. But if I alter these images now, it'll move on, and you'll see how it actually goes through it. Image not found. Because it's altered all the images, that image isn't found anymore. Number pad 1. And like I said, if I had needed to, I could have brought up one of my other copies to run it again. But like I said, if we want to actually come up with a way of having it so that it can move on to the other ones, we need to program in some kind of search pattern. And like I said, that's what we're going to be talking about in the pixel search episode 4. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was informative. If you have any questions, just leave a comment down below, and I'll try to get to it. If there is things that I missed out that I can talk about, I'll revisit this in a part 4. I think part 4. So perhaps there will be a part 4 to this if somebody comes up with something that I missed. But otherwise, I think we're done with this topic. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.